What's up, everyone, and welcome to our Andor after show. No ifs and or buts. Today, we are going to be talking about the first 3 episodes of Andor, the series premiere. We have 2 very special guests with us, 2/3 of Heroes Reforged. We have Adam and Augustine. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey,
what's up? Thank you so much for having us. This is so exciting. I don't have to run any tech for this, so this is great.
Oh yeah, I do all the tech, and by that I mean like my AirPods will go out at some point, and I'll scramble to put a different set of headphones on.
Perfect.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Let's just dive right into it, and I'll ask both of you, because Molly and I have been talking about this show for a week now. Mm-hmm. I know how she feels about it. How do both of you feel about Andor?
Go, Adam. You go first.
Oh, okay.
Adam's been waiting for this one for a while.
Yeah, I mean, so going into it, obviously, I was very excited about the idea of Cassian Andor getting a show, expanding upon the birth of the rebellion, all that sort of stuff. Especially when they talked about having Mon Mothma in there, who obviously, as we all know, had just like a deleted scene in Revenge of the Sith, one scene in Return of the Jedi. So I was like, great, we're really going to expand this out. And usually I'm not super crazy about doing stuff in the original trilogy era, whether it's like right before or right after. But everything that they've done so far, for the most part, has been like really, really good. So I was really excited at the opportunity to be able to watch the show. And then, yeah, we watched the first 4. I don't know I think you guys did as well.
We and I was the first 4, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just so surprised. One, the tone of it, because it's a little bit more adult leaning than I think like kid leaning, but I still think it's very accessible for all ages. And I love the political sort of spy thriller drama element that it has. And it's kind of something I was hoping that the show would have. And sometimes, whenever, it doesn't matter if it's Star Wars or Marvel or DC or whatever, whenever they say that, I'm like, well, how heavily are you going to lean into it? And this like really leans into it. So I love it for that. And yeah, it was a really, really good, solid 3-episode premiere. And so far it's been fantastic and I'm loving it.
And I just want to point out that, I mean, you seem to be such a big fan that you've matched the lighting of the show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. What an honor that you realized that. Because I didn't until right now.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Sleazy nightclub lighting.
Augustine, how did you feel?
So I came in very middle of the ground to this show. I love Rogue One. I thought that movie was fantastic. And I'm such a huge fan of Diego Luna that there was no way that I couldn't cheer for him as an actor. But as far as the series goes and the idea for this movie, or I'm sorry, for this show, like I said, I was very middle of the ground because I'm not one that necessarily gravitates towards this genre of filmmaking in general. And I'm more of like the silly guy. I really like comedies, obviously superhero movies and all that stuff, right? So that's what I tend to gravitate towards. But from frame one, I was hooked. I love the ambiance that they built here. Like the atmosphere just feels heavy, which is kind of what the show is trying to put across. And it feels like there is consequences and weight to people's decisions more than just like the giant space wizards who are kind of like controlling the narrative, like Vader and Luke and everybody. Like there's real world consequences for people who are not those people. And what do those people's lives look like? And how did this giant rebellion that changed the universe really get started? And I really like that aspect because it starts off with just a normal person, just a person that's not involved with any of this crazy space wizard fight. So I think it's really cool. And after the fourth episode, I was absolutely hooked. I mean, I know we're not going to talk spoilers, right? We're not talking spoilers at all. So, okay, good.
Just spoilers for 1 through 3.
Okay, fine. Just 1 through 3. That's fine. Okay. Yeah. So overall, though, I think it's a great entry. I don't know if it's a good entry at this point for like a casual Star Wars fan. So say you really like The Mandalorian and you just really watch it for Baby Yoda. It's probably not a watch that you would want to just jump in. Maybe you'd want to watch Rogue One first. Maybe you want to like have dip your toe into another property before you jump into here. But I do think it's well worthwhile for if you call yourself a Star Wars fan, you have to watch this show.
I think that's an interesting point I hadn't considered. Is it an entry point into Star Wars, or do you have to know a whole lot about Star Wars to care. And I feel like it could hook some people who maybe just not, maybe they thought Star Wars was overall too goofy or silly for me or for them, which like that's something I love about Star Wars is that it can be all those things. We can do very, Jar Jar Binks juggling things in Watto's shop, and this exists in the exact same universe. But I think that's an interesting point of I wonder how many people it's going to bring in that are new.
Right. Or even
think
people
about
who
that
just
either.
watch it casually. Because I was talking to Adam about this and we just put out our reactions and we were like, is the conversation really happening right now? Like there was even some people who wrote in our comments that like, I forgot that this show came out. So I'm just like, okay, is it people not paying attention or is it not a good entry point? And I always bounce that idea off of my wife because she's not a huge MCU or Star Wars fan. She's a Harry Potter fan. So if it's not in that kind of universe, she's not on top of it. And if she hasn't heard of it, I'm like, okay, well, is the advertising not effective enough? Like, what is going on here to reach somebody like her? And that's always kind of like the way that I look at things. And I like having her around because she gives me that kind of real world check that like, okay, we are all in like a very particular bubble and we're on top of everything. But how does the casual, like, I just watch this for fun fan kind of feel about something like this?
Yeah. I mean, I get lunch with my parents every Wednesday, and every week for like the past couple months, they'd ask what's going on. I'm like, well, Andor's about to come out, and they're like, which one is that? I'm like, it's the guy from Rogue One with the droid. Like every week, I had to tell them who Andor was again.
It's wild. It's wild for me to hear people who don't know that the show is coming, because I feel like if you're active on Star Wars Twitter, like this is all we've been seeing for weeks, because they started marketing it early, kind of, because the show was supposed to come out earlier. So I feel like I've seen a ton of build up to it. But I guess if you're not like active in the Star Wars space, you probably haven't heard much about it.
No, I agree. And and I think that's like, because I fall into that pit for sure, because we have to be on top of when everything's coming out, when the new trailer comes out, literally notifications on for everything. But I do forget sometimes that there are people who are not following Star Wars Twitter, who are not following MCU, DC, all that stuff. So it doesn't surprise me that there are people who are just like, I have no idea this is coming out. I was actually also surprised that people in our comments were like, oh, I forgot this was coming out. You guys are like my calendar reminder. I'm like, oh my God, what? How are we your calendar reminder? But so I think it's also surprising because it's Star Wars. It's not
right.
It's not a property that, has a very, very small niche fan base. It's a massively well-known property. So maybe there is like a worthy conversation about marketing and not just targeting people who are actively on social media. How are you getting people who are still hooked up to their cable box to watch this show? I have no clue what that marketing looks like because I don't have cable. So I'm just kind of going off of like how we interact with it online, which is it's everywhere.
First of all, I just want to say that I cannot imagine doing this for everything. Like, it's so nice to be able to we'll watch She-Hulk tomorrow and be like, cool. And then like that's it.
Congratulations.
Adam's got a single tear rolling down his face. You don't even.
I'm dead.
But sorry, Augustine, go ahead.
Alex, I had a question for you. So about your parents. So when you talk to them about this stuff, do you always have to remind them, or is there like a franchise or a show that they're on top of that they don't need somebody like you to intro them for?
Probably NCIS.
Okay. Okay. So they're the more casual viewer then, right?
They're very casual. I mean, they introduced me to Star Wars, but then I think they were like, what did we do after that?
And then you ran with it and they went, oh no.
Yeah, like,
what did we do?
What other like streaming services do they even watch? I think they have Discovery Plus, but they don't even really watch Netflix.
Not really. They have been keeping up with the Power Ring, as they called it yesterday.
Oh, okay. The Power Ring. That's a good one.
Power Ring.
Yeah.
And they've been enjoying
I love your parents.
So far, but they're very casual on all the things, especially the nerd side. I see super chats coming in. I mean to say this at the top of every show, but we will answer all of your questions at the end. But I will just say Eric Solo is watching because Cassian said he had to. Thank you so much, Eric, for tuning in.
Nice.
I wanted to talk about something else you brought up, Augustine, about just dealing with the everyday person of Star Wars, because that's something I've been enjoying a lot. That the Empire is mentioned in this, but they're not around. There's no Jedi, no Sith, none of the big, huge things. There's not a single super laser that can destroy a planet in these episodes. So how is everyone feeling about the smaller scale story so far? Molly, I'll start with you.
I love it. I love getting to know just what everyday life is on a planet like Ferrix. I kept comparing it to like this old mining town where everybody kind of has their job. They get up, go to work, have dinner, and go to a bar, and then go to bed and do it all the next day. So it feels really lived in to be watching something like this, and different because there's no one using the Force, no one has a lightsaber. This is just everyday people. And I love that in this town specifically on Ferrix, everyone kind of knows the deal. Like there's a lot of code words and like people lying for Cassian, almost like they do it all the time, like they know the drill. And so it's cool to see just how they get around stuff like that, and they kind of work together to like get stuff done. I really like Bix's character. She's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool to see a show like this because it's so different from what we've been getting, and just getting to see the amount of people on screen was nice, because I feel like a lot of stuff in the volume you can only fit so many people inside the volume, but this was all mostly shot on location, and there were just tons of extras in the background working and talking and stuff. So it feels better for me. Like that's the kind of stuff that I will like try to pick out. Like what are they doing in the background, stuff like that. So.
Adam, how are you feeling about the smaller scale of this story?
Yeah, well, it's funny because it is a smaller scale story, but the world around it still feels massively expansive and huge. And I think sometimes I don't know like what that if that's a struggle at all when you're making Star Wars stuff, is to make the world constantly feel like it's huge, but try to make the stories as personal as possible. And especially when you're a show, you have, only so many episodes to do it and stuff. But I think I have really enjoyed it. And I think it's for a lot of the reasons that Molly listed, because now you have an opportunity where you're not dealing with like the top of the top of the top of every major organization. You're dealing with the underdogs. And that I think is so fun, because I think that's super relatable for audiences, much more than Jedi and Sith and all that sort of stuff. Even some of like the high-ranking political leaders in the Star Wars universe. But now you have people like Cassian and Bix and all these other characters that they're just like us in a lot of ways. Like they're just doing their day-to-day, going to work, living their life, doing a little freaky at nighttime.
and then not trusting your significant other.
Yeah, and then being like, oh, this is awkward. I did you dirty, my bad.
Yeah.
But they were just holding hands.
Yeah, of course, But so I think that is a really nice kind of change of pace for the Star Wars universe. And I think in order for Star Wars to kind of stay, I don't want to say relevant, because I don't think it'll ever not be relevant, but I think for it to stay interesting, and I feel like we have these conversations with like every major property, you have to always be willing to go outside of the box and do something new and fresh and make it feel inviting for new potential fans and new audiences. And I think if you can have little pockets of the universe that someone can really be drawn to and relate to, then I think it's a great way to kind of suck them into the greater universe. And then they can go off and experience the comics, the books, all the other movies and the shows and animation, live action. So I think that I think has so far been my favorite part about it, is just how kind of I hate saying grounded because that feels like such a cheat word, but I feel like just like that relatability is what I really, really enjoy.
Well, I think it really does start grounded, and I think it's going to expand and change. But something I really dug, and you brought it up, is Tim not trusting Bix, and that so much of this story spirals out of control because it is just like small town problems where there's a little lover's spat, and he's like, "Oh, my girlfriend's gonna get back with her ex, and I'm mad about that, and I'm drunk, and I just go make a quick phone call." And now, like, so much is going to happen because of Tim.
I called it.
Should we thank him for starting like for being responsible for like the events of Rogue One happening,
starting the rebellion, basically? I called it Jim and Pam. But who was Pam dating before Jim? In The Office. What's his name? Roy. It was a very Pam and Roy situation in these first couple episodes. Yeah, they were kind of on the rocks, like, you know. I think my favorite thing, and I agree with you guys about how it's bringing a more gritty and a little bit of a different tone to the universe. But one thing that they're sticking to that I really enjoy is bringing in the extra characters like the droids and all the people in suits being like these little characters that you can really attach to. Just like, I forgot what the new droid's name is. It's like
B2EMO,
emo, right?
My new best
that
friend.
That droid was incredible, but also that other big dude that was I forgot what his name. I didn't even think they named him.
He was the really tall alien who was like the intimidator.
Yeah, it's like really tall alien who was just kind of like indifferent about the decisions that were being made. And I'm just like, these little characters, I think that's what, as different as they can go with Star Wars, I think that's really what Star Wars does well, is bringing in like these little character moments with droids or extras on set, or just people in big suits that you can really kind of like attach to. And just like from the moment you see them, you're like, I like that character, or I like that one person. And Star Wars has been doing that from day one. So what was his,
Vetch.
Did we get a name? His name was Vetch.
That's the big guy's name, yeah.
His name was Vetch. Okay, so I attached to Vetch, and just like in Obi-Wan, I attached to that big yellow droid right away. The moment I saw him, I was this guy's my best friend. He would protect me at the drop of a hat. He would be there, and he's got my back. So those are the little things that
justice for Ned B.
Yeah, there you go, Ned, little Ned, or big old Ned. Yeah,
big Ned,
big Ned. Yeah,
I love that you compared it to The Office, because we were comparing the what's the main corpo guys? Cyril. I was comparing him to Dwight Schrute, where he's just like taking his job way too seriously.
Yes. way too seriously. I agree.
Yeah, that dude is the absolute worst. The moment we're like, God, this try hard. Please just let it go, my guy. There's so many of these things happening in the universe that are the same. Just let it go.
Everyone else working there is just like, oh God, here he comes.
Yeah, like, right. Exactly.
This ladder climber, here he comes.
Here comes Dwight.
But it's cool to see the smaller scale people of Ferrix, and then also these new like corpo guys. Like they're not the Empire, they're not really law enforcement. There's somewhere in between where they work for this corporation, but they think, some of them think they have enough power to be law enforcement, so they're just getting into so much trouble.
It's such a good continuation of the prequels and the Trade Federation, the Commerce Guild, the Corporate Alliance, that at that point they were influential enough that they literally were in the Senate. And now we're basically at a point where it's like, yeah, what if Walmart had an army? Like, that's exactly what it is.
What if Costco had an army?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Their Kirkland clan.
Kirkland clan? Is that what you just said? Oh God. Oh my God. That's hilarious. But yeah, I love that though. And again, it kind of just goes back to the same thing that we've kind of been talking about, is like seeing these smaller scale characters trying to really ladder climb to become something in this universe because they want to be in the good graces of the Empire. It's hilarious to watch because you can see the desperation on all of their faces, and it's just so entertaining. I love it.
Yeah, just like the one main guy, not the guy who's I'm terrible at names, by the way. So I'm just gonna like describe people.
That's right. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I like the one main shorter had like a Scottish accent
Mosk,
a little
yeah.
bit. That guy, he is one of those villains that you love to hate because he's so dislikable that I'm gonna love watching him fail. And once again, it goes back to how Star Wars likes to write people, and I think they do a really good job of writing villains. And this one is I think it's a good one that I'm gonna keep my eye on because he's just a little memorable, little tough guy. Like he's just a little tough guy who wants to abide by the law.
I love his line where he's like, it's an ambush, they're everywhere. And it's like, are they?
Yeah, you're just getting played. Which that was one of my favorite shots.
Flask while he's like up there with his gun. He's just all over the place.
To like keep talking about kind of the small town feel, the small town consequences, but that one shot of Brasso, Cassian's friend who works in the scrapyard, and he's like walking away from the Corpo ship, and I was like, oh, he just did something. That play out. And then seeing him at the end of the day, just like knowing that shit's going down now, and he played a part in it, but watching the consequences of everything and how it affected all of these people in this small community, I really loved the little ending montage there.
Yeah, you can kind of see on their faces that like they've been aware that this day was going to come, and like now it's kind of started.
Yeah, so it's it's because it's 5 years before the events of A New Hope, so it's like everything's kind of, I feel like in the universe it's all kind of been building up slowly, and it is kind of like a ticking time bomb of events. And I'm sure all those people in that town, on that planet, surrounding planets, are probably thinking like there's something coming. We obviously don't know how big the whispers are of like the early formation of the rebellion, but I'm sure there is like some word getting out. If part of the Empire is maybe starting to learn this too, then it's like, oh, whispers around the galaxy of like little pockets of rebellion, of rebels, building outward. So yeah, I would imagine that it's got to be, no matter what your contribution is, no matter how small, just literally hooking a ship and causing it to crash, that like leads to a spider web of events, and like you kind of are a part of it. And like, what does that feel like if you're just like a regular normal person who goes to their 9 to 5, and then you're responsible for like these chain of events happening like that? I like all that stuff. To me, that gets really interesting. And again, it just kind of goes back into giving us something new and different, and really making you think about like, what are the consequences of every single action that every person takes in this series.
It's funny. I really like the way they set up that the people of Ferrix are kind of just trying to keep their heads down, and they have their ways of getting around the Corpos just so they don't look too hard. And the Corpos are doing the same thing so that the Empire doesn't look too hard at them, where the chief inspector was just like, look, I don't want to tell them that 2 of our people died, because then they're going to come over here. They're just looking for an excuse to take over, which now they have probably been handed that thanks to Cyril. But everyone is just like trying to get by and keep their heads down and stay hidden. And now like it's going to explode.
And it makes me wonder how long that they can keep that up, because for the most part, it seems like there's a lot of, when you get to Rogue One, at least, there's still a lot of, the main leaders, the main rebels are still in hiding kind of, but what events took place, and will we see those events take place that made them go into hiding? Like, is this show going to explore any of that? And I'm mainly talking about Forrest Whitaker's character. Like I said, terrible at names.
Forrest Whitaker. Everyone knows what you mean.
But like, so I think we're going to see a lot of really cool things as the seasons develop here, because we're talking what, like 2 or 3 seasons for this show already?
2
seasons,
it was going to be 5, and then they cut
what?
it down,
I didn't know that.
Crazy.
So they wanted to do every season would be a year, and as they were filming this one, Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna were like, "This is too much."
Right.
And so
it's a lot.
Yeah. So this season is 1 year, and then season 2 is going to every 3 episodes will be a year, which is cool. But I'm also, after seeing the first arc, I'm like, ugh.
How's that going to work?
Yeah.
It would have been great to see 5 years of this show, but I understand that it would have killed them.
Diego Luna is going to be 50 playing a 20-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
He looks good. He can do it.
Yeah, he looks great.
Yeah. I love the flashbacks of his childhood too. We gotta touch on that. What do you guys think? What do you think is going on with this group of kids with no adults around? Like, were they stranded there? Is this their planet, their island?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit, and Hector brought this up because they do that massive pullback of the mine, and you see Cassian standing over it. Hector was saying that he thinks, and I think it's a good theory, that they must have been like miners on the planet, and the Empire came in and either wiped them all out or enslaved them, or I don't know what, but all the kids were left behind. Or they escaped or something. So it kind of feels like it's almost like Neverland-ish, where it's just like the lost boys and girls who are just having to fend for themselves. Other than that, I have no clue how else those kids could have gotten there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that theory. I have a feeling that it was very much maybe they weren't even miners to begin with. Maybe they were just existing on the planet.
Yeah,
Empire came down. They were like, we're gonna force you guys to mine. Only the adults are gonna work. Something happens, something very tragic happens where the parents either die or enslaved or taken off planet, and these kids are kind of left to fend for themselves. That's the only logical thing that makes sense to me.
What's weird is the people that crash are wearing separatist uniforms.
Right.
And then Marva says they're from the Republic. So I think that's all during the Clone Wars. But I do think that someone came and subjugated them. But like, it's all very muddled and confusing. And I think that's all on purpose. I think this is a mystery that they're going to unravel for us. I saw some people thinking it was a mistake that Marva called them Republic officers. I'm like, they might be undercover. Who knows? But I certainly don't think that they made that big of a mistake if they were like separatist patches and they're the Republic, whatever.
Yeah, we were trying to kind of piece together like how far back that could be, just kind of based on Cassian's age. He looks like he's 12, 13. So then you're starting to do the math of like, okay, is it like 7 years before? That means that will probably still be in like the Revenge of the Sith, Clone Wars era. So that was the only thing that we were like, weren't 100% sure kind of like how to piece all that together. So yeah, it could be former Republic or separatist, or maybe something else even. I don't know.
Alex or Molly, do you guys have any theories on to why those dudes that crashed had yellow skin? Because we were wondering what was going on with those guys. I want to hear if you guys have any theories.
Yeah, I think I said that I was like, oh, some kind of poison turned them yellow, but then we were like, maybe they were already yellow.
Yeah,
because it's Star Wars.
Yeah,
I mean, it wouldn't be weird if they were already yellow, right? So
yeah.
It's like a yellow gas is coming out of the ship. So it did seem like they were poisoned. And then I'm like, liver damage turns yellow. So maybe their livers just got blown up.
Does that mean then that the kids who live there are immune to this gas? Because it's all over the planet. It's all over the mines, right? So that's what I was thinking. I was like, are these guys poisoned? Or are they off planet and they can't breathe this kind of air maybe? Or what I like to think is that these kids are somehow immune to this poison and it'll play in sometime in the next couple seasons.
Ooh, that would be a good tie-in to why the fact that he's from Canary is a secret.
Right.
Yeah, because that's a whole. Oh, by the way, let's talk about Fest for a second. I don't know if this made me pump my fist when I saw it. Just it's like the nerdiest thing. I'll try to get through it fast. But the reference book, the Rogue One Visual Dictionary, said that Cassian's homeworld is Fest. So like we've thought that for 6 years. It's just like a little detail, whatever. And when I saw they were doing flashbacks, I was like, that doesn't look like Fest. They're probably going to change that. And so then, they retconned that he's from Canary. But then when Marva said that they had their backstory, it's like, we always said you were from Fest. I was like, perfect. Like
they tied it in.
Yeah, I love that they acknowledge it and even make it like basically the Rogue One visual guide is just Cassian's secret file.
Right. And it could potentially turn into a really interesting storyline down the way. Like why are they hiding that he's not from Fest? So yeah. Interesting. Lots to think about with that one.
Yeah. Like Marva and is it Clem during the flashback of them going onto the ship, she says something about the poison. And then she tells him to like take his mask off. Something about it like not being a danger anymore.
Yeah, so I guess I hope the poison all dissipated, but yeah, B2 said that the air was clean. Which we should do this real quick, Molly, because I forgot. But we have been drawing our favorite scenes of late, and I know Molly and I drew basically the same thing. So here's my drawing for this week's episode.
Nice.
I adore B2 Emo. He's my new favorite droid gentleman.
Yep.
Molly, you drew something very similar.
I mean, yeah, basically the same thing.
Nice.
I'm glad I didn't have to draw anything. My art would be horrible.
I love that he speaks basic. We weren't expecting a droid to just come out talking, and I also love his little stutter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his stutter makes him so endearing, and then the tone of his voice is actually very endearing as well. Like I never expected a droid to have such like a deep voice, I guess, because he has kind of like a deeper voice, and then with the little stutter that he has, you just can't help but love him.
And the way that they find ways to give emotion to droids, whether it's like BD1 and his like little ear antenna, or just the sound design of R2D2, but the way that him just like turning his head down and into his own body.
Yeah. Like
It's
he can
so-
slinky himself into his body and like really emote, which I think it's just a huge I think the animators should be applauded for giving these little droids just so much personality in life, because it can be difficult to do.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most impressive things about Star Wars is everyone always remembers a droid. Every movie. Doesn't matter if it's, or even not even every movie, just games, comics, or whatever. People always point out a droid, and I think it's because the puppeteers and animators, they really know how to just move them and make them feel in a weird way like they are kind of human. And like you were saying, Augustine, like they emote, which is kind of insane. And you know, it doesn't necessarily have like the most moving parts, but it's so nuts how Star Wars has really like figured that out. They like tuned into the right frequency, and every droid so far has been so good. Every single one of them.
And to shout out the puppeteers, I believe B2 was voiced by Dave Chapman, who did the some of the puppeteering for BB-8 as well.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
He did some stuff on Solo too, with the Proxima, Lady Proxima puppet and everything. So
nice.
Well, since you are both known for your reactions, what got the biggest reaction out of each of you from these first 3 episodes?
Go for it.
What would be my biggest reaction? I think it was when are we talking a little bit of spoiler? I don't know which episode is which.
Oh god! Dare spoil anything from next week?
Yeah. I don't know
if it was on Ferrix, it's fair game.
Yeah.
If it was not on Ferrix,
I'm the same way. I'm like, don't say anything from episode.
Come on, Steven.
Okay, let me know, you guys. I'm gonna give you guys a clue, because if it's spoilery, nobody else will know. But it was with walkie-talkies. Do you remember?
Was B2 involved?
That sounds like episode 3.
Then,
that's 3.
You're
That's
good.
3,
You're
right?
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my biggest reaction was when Cassian was talking to B2 Emo when those cop dudes were inside the house, right? And so the moment he started talking, I was just like, no, this is too stressful. Like, no, like, shut up, shut your mouth, shut your mouth. This is the worst time to try to be talking to people. So, and that was just really good filmmaking and just good storytelling at that point, because I was stressed. I was stressed at that point.
That probably, I mean, to talk about B2 a little more, when Cyril threatened to pull his power cell out and he just went, no.
He goes, no.
I went, no.
How dare you?
I don't know if I have 2, but one is like very, very short term. But I think one of the biggest reactions, it wasn't necessarily like an on-camera reaction, but internally, you know, like I felt like my stress levels were being elevated, but I was super invested, was the entire conversation that Luthen and Cassian were having inside of the factory or the warehouse that they were in. And you could feel that Luthen was trying to spit out like, I want to recruit you for the rebellion, essentially. but going through all the roundabout ways of trying to figure out whether or not he could trust him and really just trying to feel out that whole situation. I loved that whole dialogue scene. I was so just like tapped into it, and it was just so kind of like enthralling to watch. I love that. And then Sergeant Caustic saying shit completely threw me off. I don't know why. Of all the things in Star Wars, like that was just like, wait, what did he just say? Not poodoo. He said shit. Okay.
We all have living in a dank ferric world, and suddenly they're saying shit.
Just knowing a little bit about Tony Gilroy, I feel like them being like, well, here's a collection of our Star Wars swear words, and him being like, no, absolutely not.
They're like, Tony,
absolutely
have
not
you
my
tried
poodoo
Park or Criff? No, we're gonna stick with shit.
Yeah, that was like, I literally paused and I was like, did I just hear what I thought but then someone mentioned, you guys would probably remember better than I would, someone mentioned that Finn says shit in The Force Awakens. I don't remember it. No. But I was like, really? Okay, well, whatever. I guess if he did, he did.
Nah, he doesn't.
Okay.
I'm sure somebody like in the chat could correct that.
Yeah, someone's about to look at The Force Awakens and fast forward to it.
I believe the first canonical use of shit in Star Wars was in Queen's Hope in a book.
Yeah, in a book.
But,
oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. But I wonder if it was because, like, maybe there was a Lucasfilm internal memo that went out. It's like, well, Tony Gilroy used shit in Andor, so let all the authors know.
It's legit.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
We got to talk about Lucid.
Good point, Scott C. That we
almost he gets cut off. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Good point.
Okay,
he could have been
good
saying
point.
anything.
That's true. That's true.
Molly, what did you want to talk about?
Stellan Skarsgård. I think he is chef's kiss, just amazing, and I cannot wait to be able to talk about episode 4 because his stuff in 4 is so good.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I call it Stellar Skarsgård because he's that damn good.
Because he's that damn good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So good.
We are grateful for the subtitles, though.
For sure.
We were Cassian Andor.
Yeah. Well, like for us, because we watch it together for the first time, and like, we're reacting to it, but at the same time, we're kind of talking about stuff. It would be absolutely impossible to watch almost any of these things without subtitles. So I'm like, thank God that they make them such a priority because we would be so screwed without them. But he's got that strong voice and he talks like this. He just mumbles half the time. You're like, what are you saying?
The first 20 or so minutes of the first episode, like all those people have such strong accents. I was like, what are they saying?
It makes me super nervous when we go to
England
next year.
That's just me with any TV show, though. I just need to have the captions on because I'm just like, huh?
Yeah,
I used to not do that, and then Molly demanded to turn the captions on, and I was
like,
know
what they're saying.
And now I need them.
I know. It's like once you start, you don't. I'll start watching. I'm like, what?
Yeah. It's a newer habit for me too. But Adam and I were watching the new 4K re-release of Avatar in theaters last night. And the very first moment it started, I was like, where are the captions? I was like, oh, I'm in a movie theater. Dang.
James Cameron would have some words for you, sir.
Come on, James. Put some
Come on, Jimmy.
For me, buddy. Come on, Jimmy.
I feel like it's only a matter of time before they start doing that in theaters or having it as an
special
option.
Glasses or something.
They actually do have the option for it. They have like a device you can mount onto the seat next to you. It's like a reflective mirror. And it plays captions in the back of the theater, and then I worked at the theater,
neat.
so yeah,
interesting.
It's available.
All the little secret tricks.
That's really cool. Let's talk about just the Ferric set and just the production design, maybe like the behind the scenes non-story stuff, whether it's production design, the music, what have you. But Molly, you brought up the set earlier, and just the fact that there was this scene of Stellan Skarsgård, of Luthen and Bix, and they're like walking down the street. There's extras everywhere. It felt so cool to just have that
everywhere.
Room to move. Yeah.
Because that makes sense because it's like a scrap town planet or whatever. So there's like, I don't want to say tires because they're not like whatever the Star Wars version of tires are.
Yeah.
There's like wheels and tubes and cords and just like stuff everywhere. I love that shot of everyone's gloves hanging up on the wall.
Yeah, that was cool. Did you try to look at that wall of gloves and say, oh, which ones would I wear? Which ones would be mine? Because I know I did. I was like, oh, which ones do I like? Those are all pretty cool.
Yeah, so like, for us, we always have pretty in-depth conversations about the VFX because that's the industry that we came from. So it's always interesting, looking at how different shows, whether they're Star Wars or even if they're now the Marvel stuff is using the volume, and kind of looking and seeing like, who do we feel like is utilizing this space the best, the most efficiently, and which people may not have like the most well-rounded understanding of how to make the volume work. And going into this show, we didn't know at the time of the trailer drop that they were not using the volume at all. So then we found that out. We're like, oh, this will be interesting to see how it kind of stacks up next to all the other shows that have used the volume. And I will say, I think the volume is incredible. I think Mandalorian has used it the best so far. But I really did, whether I knew it or not, I did kind of miss having these like real life built out set pieces. And of course there's blue screen because they have to expand it outward and make them, make a huge city out of it. But everything that is practical, I think Molly was mentioning this, it feels so like lived in. It feels like it's been there. It kind of gave you that feeling of what the original Star Wars, the whole trilogy, I would say, where everything really feels like it was hand built and put together by all the people that live on that planet. And sometimes I think when you're dealing with things like the volume or exclusively green screen, where everything is a digital replication or a digital replacement, you lose some of that. So yeah, even just them having streets to walk down and seeing all the people was kind of nice.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with you on the Mandalorian, and to compare like the Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett to, I struggled with the volume in Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I think that was because the Mandalorian is being written with the volume in mind. Like Jon Favreau is like, I want to make this new technology, I want to write this show, and so I think they're able to incorporate it a little bit better. I think Obi-Wan unfortunately just had its hands tied with COVID, and they were trying to shoot a little safer, and so they were using the volume when the project was written so long ago and then adapted, and I think they were using it when it wouldn't have been used otherwise if they had other options. But
I agree.
Yeah, it just feels refreshing to have these huge sets. The whole Ferric set, every time I see it, I love it. I love it so much.
I love how they made those, whatever those big engine blocks were in that room with Cassian and Luthen. They made them look super heavy and dangerous, like on all those chains were everywhere. Like that felt very real to see. And I don't know if those were all practical effects or CG, but it looks great.
Yeah, I agree. I think my favorite thing, if we're talking production wise, so far, I mean, to echo everything that you guys said, the set stuff is all fantastic. I like the blend of everything that they're doing, but to me, it's always the sound design that really kind of, puts that extra little spice on it that makes it feel really lived in and really, really real. Because in our reviews as well, we were talking about like the original sound designers for the original trilogy were just going around banging on stuff and just like plucking things and just like using a microphone and picking up whatever they could, not knowing they were going to make some of the most iconic sounds in cinema, right? And so you have a big big shoes to fill when you're trying to design something. And I think they're doing a really good job with all the sound design in this show. And the one sound that particularly sticks out to me was when Bix was welding. The first shot we see her in, when she's welding something under an engine block, I was like, that's one of the coolest sounds I've ever heard in Star Wars. And it was just a welder welding. And it's just, there's something, it's something real nice in the back of my brain. And I was like,
this is Mechanic Augustine who works on his motorcycle every day coming out. So
exactly. Yeah, I was just like, that's a good welding sound.
That's a crispy sound. I like the sound of that.
Space welding.
Yeah, exactly.
The music is also, I think, really good.
That's the sound I'd want my welder to make.
That's the soundtrack to your life, your welding life.
Yep.
The score is also incredibly well done, I think.
Mhm.
I'm not familiar with the composer's work. Nicholas Brittle, I think Britell is the composer's name. Yeah, I'm not familiar with his work at all, but I feel like every score, mostly all the scores that they've had for all these shows have been really, really good. And this one, I feel like they all do in some ways, but it has to kind of tie into multiple things. I mean, it doesn't have to, but usually they do. You have to tie into the rebellion part of it, the Imperial part of it, the Rogue One part of it, the Cassian part of it, and then create new themes for characters that maybe didn't have themes before. But I've really enjoyed the music. It's been, I feel like it's really supported the tone of the show incredibly well.
Yeah, I agree.
I really like the way Star Wars music has been expanding, because I remember when the Mandalorian theme, I first heard that and it was like kind of weird.
Yeah,
now I love it.
What?
Yeah, I think it's an absolute banger. I love it. And I feel like that primed me for at the end of episode 2 for Andor, like these drums, just start coming in. And I was just like,
it's great.
It's awesome. And I feel like if the Mandalorian hadn't happened, I probably would have been like, I don't know, seems kind of weird, but I was just like into it. But it also it plays into all the percussion in episode 3, the time grappler, who is also a favorite character. Get me a Funko Pop of him, please.
I just want him to say it's hammer time just once. But I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't think that's gonna happen. Or at least like have him wear hammer pants, maybe. Like, parachute pants. That'd be pretty funny. Just a slight nod.
He slides up all those stairs.
Yeah. I also love the music, and I love how it changes. So like each episode, the music starts with like a very different tone. And I know they talked about that before the show started, that the theme was gonna change throughout the show. And then they also at certain points they had the musicians on set playing the music while they were filming.
Really? There might have been recording, so I don't know if the musicians
That's amazing.
were there,
but they had people on set playing the music.
Diego Luna said that he was able to listen to the score while he was performing some scenes.
That's cool.
So it's like, they've had this music.
I'm actually kind of surprised that at this point, with all of these shows,
nobody's done that yet.
Considering like how expansive, their music libraries must be, and they have like John Williams and all these incredible people. I'm like, I'd be playing that shit on set every single day to get people in the mood.
Absolutely.
I feel like I would need that as an actor. Like, get me in the mood, give me some music, and I'm like, play something epic from Star Wars, and I'd be like, all right, I'm ready to go murder everyone. Let's go.
I'm imagining John Williams in like a full orchestra on a big dolly. And they're like pushing the whole orchestra along while Cassian's running down a street.
Poor 90-year-old John Williams being like, I need a sandwich. Someone help me.
I would get so pumped up if I was in a Star Wars scene, like an action Star Wars scene, and there was even just over loudspeakers, just the music blasting. I would be so happy.
And maybe when Harrison Ford says that music follows him everywhere, maybe he's not kidding. Maybe it really does. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, do any of you have anything else you want to bring up before we dive into some questions?
Oof.
Good question.
The one thing that I have really been loving, and I tweeted about this, was I think the writing is so sharp. And that's not a knock on any other Star Wars that's come before it, but I think because it's really trying to tonally be espionage, spy, kind of like a drama thriller sort of thing, sometimes when the characters have dialogue, just the things that they're saying, and we had to do it because we had to read the captions, but just the things that they say and the way that they deliver the lines, that's so snappy and it feels so aggressive, even towards people who like they work with, especially these like officers. It just makes me stressed, and I love that feeling because I'm like, well, the show's doing a good job writing wise, and then the actors are reading it and going, okay, I know how to kind of deliver this and play this. And I'm like, okay, I'm stressed as hell and I'm sweating over here, but you're doing a great job. So I think that's what I love, because I think, for me, at least in the other shows like Mando and all that stuff, it has a little bit of a lighter tone. And I don't mean that like in a bad way, but it's more playful and it's kind of more fun. And of course it has dramatic moments, but it's just different. I don't feel stressed. I'm kind of more like, ooh, what's going to happen next? In this show, I'm like, I don't even know if I want to walk into that room with those characters. Someone's about to die.
Yep.
Yeah, it feels like very, very high stakes.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is, I think, due to the writing.
Yeah. And I don't consider that a knock on other Star Wars at all. Like, I just think it's different Star Wars. And it's something I love about the universe is that if you want your really lighthearted whimsy stuff, you can go find that in I wouldn't call The Mandalorian that lighthearted, but it's more whimsical.
Yeah.
And so far, they haven't really done much whimsy in Andor. And I do miss it a little bit, but I mean, we've seen like the four-armed doctor in the trailer, and we had Vetch. There are like little tastes of it.
Yeah, don't forget Babu Freak is in this one at some point. We saw him in the trailer, so that's all the whimsy I need.
That was Mando.
That was Mandalorian.
Was that Mando?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
But you never know.
So that's what happens when we react to everything under the sun. We're like, what show is this character in? I don't remember.
All the Star Wars just kind of blends together.
I got so excited. You said Babu Freak, and I was like, how did I miss that?
No, that was the
set me up. Damn it.
Either way, it would be great to see.
On a planet like Ferrix, you would think they would have Anzellans working there because they're good
That's true.
in like little small spaces.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'm just waiting for episode 8 when Senator Jar Jar Binks is in the Imperial Senate. Like,
I'm saying, come on, give Ahmed Best something to do. Damn it.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a couple questions before we let you all head out. Our first super chat here is from David Cornett, and I like the question, David. What are your thoughts on the yellow and black checkerboard pattern appearing on the cabinet on Marva's ship? I'll let everyone else go first because I'm the one that I think this is targeted for.
Okay, because I'm like, what?
That's a cool design, right?
Let me go rewatch the episode really fast. Hold on.
Well, the reason they're bringing this up is because it's the black and yellow checkerboard is on Big Starklighter's helmet.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's
right.
Biggs is my boy. And,
I see.
And it looks exactly like that.
It's just more
Ish.
straight checkerboard.
Got it.
Straight. Okay.
I genuinely think it was just meant to be a recognizable pattern, so that at the end of episode 2, you'd be like, "Oh, that's the same ship." Like he had worked on Ferrix or that ship the whole time. So
yeah.
That's
nice.
But I was definitely like, yeah, yellow and black. That one's for you.
That's my boy. What's up?
I mean, maybe the ship used to belong to a Darklighter, or maybe that's where they get the idea.
Yeah, maybe that's where
in Star Wars, anything is possible.
That's true.
Yeah, okay. It's proof that a Biggs cameo is going to happen in season
That's right.
2.
That's true.
Tweet about it right now, and we'll retweet it and cause a shitstorm on Twitter.
If this doesn't happen, Star Wars is over.
Done.
Shut it
Selling
down.
our stocks and shutting down.
I should have brought this one up a second ago, but Sean Room, thank you for the next super chat. Love the music. The drums at the end of episode 2.
Absolute banger.
Yeah.
I do.
That's
I'll throw, building off of that, I'll throw this question to you because I've been trying to figure out, what do you think the significance of all of the banging is in episode 3? Just all of the people of Ferrix hitting what seemed to be just metal implements that they all had hanging outside of their doors. What do you think that was?
I kind of assumed it was just like it's like their internal warning system.
Yeah, I would assume so too. Amali brought up a good point earlier, how the community feels like it's really well built, right? And that is an example of world building, I think, that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but of course a community who lives so close together, probably all know each other, probably all watch out for each other, has a way of communicating non-verbally that's like, hey guys, we're either celebrating, like we're banging stuff together, or if you hear this when it's quiet, hide. Like they all probably have some kind of deep understanding of what this commotion means, and that they've all kind of agreed on. So I think that's just a really smart way of nonverbal communication to get something across the whole community.
Yeah,
I really like that.
It has like a rhythm to it that isn't just like random banging. There's some kind of pattern to
Morse
it.
Cody.
Yeah. So now I'm wondering if like they have a different pattern for when the ice cream truck comes through, and they're like, "Get your wallets out."
Yeah, guys, the Choco Tacos are back.
Get your Choco Taco, yeah.
Choco Tacos are back. Hurry up.
Jar Jar Binks selling Choco Tacos. Oh, we still got them here. Let's go.
I love the idea that they would hit on their metal pieces in different rhythms to signal different things.
Yeah, and think about it. They're all from this scrapyard. They would all have some kind of metal to bang on. So it's just like, yeah, we can hear things, and it's not people obviously working on an engine or something. So it's just, it's just that communication to alert the rest of the community.
And I love Marva's line of like, when you really worry is when it stops.
Yes,
so she knows. She knows when stuff's going down.
She just sits back. She's just like,
the way she delivered that line,
sipping her tea.
I got scared.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for you guys, and I got scared.
Well, I'm kind of like the way that'll happen, and it stopped, and the frame was just like this wide shot, and the time grappler tower was in there. I was kind of hoping, and I hope this happens in the future, is that when the banging stopped, it was like, okay, we're ready, and I kind of wanted the time grappler to come out and just start wailing, and like all the villagers come out and just like cause hell.
That'd be amazing. Just like a whole like march of people coming through. That'd be insane.
And I love this idea that they have. I mean, they tell their time by some man going up and hammering on metal, and that they all have this culture surrounded by it. And I think part of it is supposed to be that we don't fully understand, and that the corpos don't understand.
Right.
They say that it's like all bluff and bluster, but it didn't really seem that way. It seemed like they were locking things up, and
it's like the Flintstones when that bird squawks.
Oh my god,
that's so funny.
Oh my god, that is hilarious. That is so funny.
We were doing a reaction. Hector did he said the exact same thing. He was wondering if it was you pull the tail on that bird in the Flintstones.
Hilarious. Hilarious.
Our good friend Jake Berlin has the next super chat. Thank you, Jake. During these first three, what are the biggest movies or TV inspirations you see while watching? Two that I feel are Blade Runner and Moments and Bourne. Well, that
Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blade Runner. I think Blade Runner I mentioned literally the moment that first episode started. I was like, the music, the lighting, everything. I was like, oh, Blade Runner. Yeah, so I think those are the two biggest ones. I'm trying to think of like what other spy action thrillers. I mean, take your pick. I'm sure there's at least a few of them. Anything that Tony Gilroy has written.
I was immediately thinking of Michael Clayton.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something that is a little more.
Well, the very beginning of the episodes when it like is showing us the title card or whatever, that feels very 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
Right.
Which I loved. I'm like, do that more in Star Wars, please.
Yeah.
I guess they've done some of it for like planets, but that was like it's been very descriptive in Andor, which I like.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's not a direct correlation, but just because it's in a like kind of new space or like a very industrial space, it reminded me of the opening sequence of Akira, of the anime, the 80s anime, just with the lights and kind of like the linear way things are, and just like the sight lines. It reminded me of that opening sequence. And not, like I said, not a direct comparison. And just because I'm a huge animation geek, I was just like, yeah, I feel like they kind of took a little bit of inspiration from at least like the way because that first shot is a big long corridor, and in the beginning of that movie, it's just motorcycles racing down the highway with lights passing, and just the way it was designed, it was very very reminiscent, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have anything specific, except I thought that the opening had a lot more film noir to it than I was expecting. Just the fact that Cassian is like going to this seedy underworld kind of thing, and he's looking for this missing girl, his lost sister. And there are several mysteries sprinkled throughout this story.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting having a mystery element to it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, either was I.
Agree.
Yeah. Well, it has been almost exactly an hour, so we will let both of you go because it's still the middle of your day and you have She-Hulk left to do.
That's right.
But please let everyone in the chat know where they can watch your content, follow you online.
Adam's got the magic voice, so
Damn it! I knew it. I knew it.
Adam's got the voice.
I didn't want to look, and I was like, maybe Augustine will do it this time, so I don't have to do it for once. You can just check out our stuff on YouTube, youtube.com/Heroes Reforged. We have reactions for God knows how many shows at this point. We're watching like everything under the sun except for House of the Dragon, which our audience likes to remind us every single day that we're not doing. Thank you so much. We have stuff on Patreon as well, and our Twitter is Heroes Reforged, which is weird because I feel like I don't ever plug that. Follow us on there, and thank you guys so much for having us on here. This was really, really fun. This is, I think, our first like collaborative thing that we've done in 2 years.
Collaborative thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've only hosted maybe a person or two, but this was fun, you guys. Thank you so much for inviting us, and I had a blast. And you guys are very knowledgeable on Star Wars. I'm very impressed.
Well, I should hope so.
It's all we do.
Wait, no, but if you haven't seen their timeline videos, holy God, it is the best. I'm like, I learned so much from these. I love it. I don't have to do any research. I just put it on in the background and I just watch and listen, and it's the best.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you both for coming. You're all crushing it, all three of you. Your YouTube channel it's getting to 100K. So if
almost
you're watching this and
So
you're not
close.
subscribed to Heroes Reforged, the link is in the description. Go subscribe to them. Get them to 100K because that's awesome.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
congratulations
Thank you,
to
guys.
both of you.
Thank you.
We'll let you go. Thank you for hanging out. And Molly and I will stay here and answer the rest of your super chats.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Have fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Well, they're great.
So great.
That was super
They talk about so much other stuff than we do. It's
I know,
amazing
I know.
how they can keep up with everything. But
Watching
if
their
you
stuff, I'm just like, oh my gosh.
if you enjoy our reactions, their reactions are going to make ours look very boring. So go
Well,
watch their
especially-
reactions.
I mean, like, unfortunately, our Patreon reactions for the first 3 episodes are not genuine. I mean, when we say that up front, we're not faking anything. but we
They
had seen
are
the episodes
posted,
already. Yeah.
but it's more like a commentary with video.
Yeah, we basically did a video and an audio commentary for the first 3 episodes. But episode 4, we got a genuine reaction for next week. Okay, we are going to start answering your super chat questions, but I need to run and grab a refill on water. And this stream is sponsored by AG1, so we're going to play their ad real quick while I do that. And sit tight, everyone. Today's episode is sponsored by Athletic Greens. They sent us their daily vitamin supplement, AG1. I started taking AG1 to see if it would help give me more energy, especially in the morning. I like coffee, but I know caffeine isn't the best for you, so I thought swapping it out with AG1 would be an interesting experiment. I've been taking 1 scoop mixed with 10 or 12 ounces of water first thing after I wake up. It's loaded with 75 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and more. I would say that it has helped me wake up and have more productive days in the month or so that I started taking it. I've also noticed that I've been falling asleep easier, which has been a struggle for me as long as I can remember. AG1 costs less than $3 a day, and your subscription also includes a year's supply of vitamin D. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Star Wars. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Star Wars to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And now, back to the show. I said I was getting a refill on water. I actually
I
just got a
heard
Coors
I
Light.
heard a can crack. I know what you were doing.
Coors
Anyways.
Light's close to water.
Thank you to our sponsor for the video.
Yes. Thank
We
you.
gotta keep the
Athletic
lights on,
Greens.
guys. We gotta keep the lights
yeah,
on.
yeah. All right, let's dive into some questions here. Next up is Dan V900. Thank you so much, Dan. I wasn't looking forward to Andor and felt it was unnecessary. I found Andor to be dull in Rogue One, but he is becoming more interesting with the show being very good so far. Stellan Skarsgård stole the show. That's like, they always do. Well, I shouldn't say always, but I think if someone like Tony Gilroy, who is a self-described non-Star Wars fan, And I always feel weird saying that. That doesn't mean he dislikes Star Wars. It just means he's like, I don't know, I didn't know anything about Star Wars until I joined the Rogue One crew.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who did not grow up obsessed with this franchise, but he's like, I have a story I think I want to tell. Like, that was one sign to me that this was going to be, at the very least, interesting. But I always thought that Andor was a compelling character that I wished got more screen time in Rogue One. I kind of wish all of the characters got a little more focus in Rogue One.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad to see him being more and more fleshed out.
I've heard this a lot over time, ever since we found out that the show was happening, that a lot of people thought it was unnecessary, which I totally understand, seeing as we've all seen Rogue One. We know what happens. Cassian, spoilers, he dies at the end of Rogue One.
Molly, please.
So I get the idea of like, why did we need this? But even from just the first 3 episodes, like, it feels like something that we were severely lacking in Star Wars. Just being able to see this small world, day-to-day activities, and like how exactly this rebellion took shape and started with the little guys and kind of built bigger and bigger and bigger. And like getting to see, we haven't gotten any Mon Mothma yet. She's going to be introduced in the 4th episode, and getting to see more of her stuff, like how she was helping the rebellion from her position as a politician, is going to be so cool to see, just like a deeper dive into that side of things. So I think the more of this show we see, the more apparent it will be that we needed to see how this all happened.
Yeah, and I was going to point out, howdy, it's David, said, how is the genesis of the rebellion unnecessary? And like, I don't think that, I think that's kind of the danger of naming a show after a character or a book after a like they do that so often, where Andor, yes, is very much about the character of Cassian Andor, but it's not just that. And I remember years ago there were rumors that they were discussing like a Jabba show, and to me I'm like, really, why? But that's just a simple way of putting it, that it would be like a gangster story set in Star Wars. And that I absolutely think that going into the genesis of the rebellion is necessary and cool, and I can't wait to see more of that. But you don't always get that when they just say, we're doing a show about Cassian Andor. So I kind of wish they would get away with that naming convention, or get away from it. But
yeah,
it also just works for marketing. If you have a recognizable name, even somewhat.
I mean, and they're taking a pretty big leap with the name Andor, because that one's not very recognizable. Obi-Wan, right. Yes.
And
Mandalorian, yes.
People have thrown out Fulcrum as an idea, and like, to me, I'd be like, yeah. But A, we don't know if they're even gonna dive into the Fulcrum stuff, but B, that is not recognizable to the casual fan. They'd just be Star Wars Fulcrum. What does that mean? Maybe it would be intriguing, but more people know the name Andor than maybe would be intrigued by the name Fulcrum.
Yeah, it reminds me of like when we found out about the Acolyte. Like, that's a name, or that's a word that we've heard thrown around a little bit in Star Wars if you read the books and the comics, but otherwise you might not know that word exists in Star Wars. But it's creating such an intrigue behind the idea because it's this unknown thing.
It'll be interesting to see if like Darth Plagueis is in the Acolyte. Then I wonder if they did, I don't know, case studies and research. I'm sure they did, of what they should name it. And it's like, I guess the Acolyte is more intriguing than the name Darth Plagueis is recognizable to your everyday normal person on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Everyone that knows prequel memes knows Darth Plagueis, but
yeah. I mean, they could have named this show The Birth of the Rebellion. But like you said, for marketing, Marvel is churning out all of these shows that are just like one-word titles that are the names of the main characters. So it just feels like the easiest option to go with a name.
Yeah. And also Star Wars Rebels was already taken. So
sure.
There's that. But Joel Davis says the next super chat. Thank you, Joel. Love Andor, but I hate it when people are using it to bring down other shows. I agree. Mando and Andor should both be allowed to do their own things in the same universe. I could not agree more, Joel.
Yeah, what's the point in using these shows against each other?
It's like you showed me that Hollywood Reporter article, I think, that they said
this show isn't meant for the Baby Yoda fans. And it's like, well, there's a more eloquent way to say that.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's not a clickable way. Like they wanna like prod people. Molly loves Andor and has a little Halloween Baby Yoda right there.
Don't talk to me about what Baby Yoda fans like.
People can love multiple things. But I can't stand it when people do that and say, or make, I didn't mean to do that. Or make blanket statements of like, this is what Star Wars should be. Like, I am loving Andor, but I don't want Star Wars to be Andor all the time. I love that they keep doing different things and that I can get almost anything I want out of Star Wars by watching a certain show or reading a certain comic or book. Mm-hmm. Like that's part of what makes Star Wars great.
Yeah, I'm guilty of using a show like Andor to say, this is what I wish Obi-Wan had done, because I know both of us, we had a lot of things that we thought could have been better as far as the volume goes and like what the show actually looked like. But at the end of the day, like Obi-Wan is a very different show from this. It was a much smaller scale story being told, mostly about Obi-Wan's character. So the fact that there aren't as many people in the background, or it doesn't feel as big of a thing, like that makes sense to me now, because this story about Andor is so much bigger scale wise, I guess. So like, I don't know, it's hard not to compare the shows, but like he said, like don't use one show to bring another one down, because they're different stories being told.
Yeah, and like story wise, I really, really dug Obi-Wan. It was just some of the execution, and like that, I at that point I'm nitpicking because it still moved me emotionally.
Yeah, and like you said, like you said, when they were creating this, they were creating it to be a movie, and
there were so many things that I feel like Kenobi just got its hands tied, and it wasn't anyone's fault. It was just like, oh, the state of the world is garbage now, and trying to make art is difficult, but we're going to try and do our best. And it's more just like, it's a shame they had to make it in the year 2020 and 2021. That's it.
Yeah, we're still seeing content come out that was filmed and produced and everything during the height of the pandemic. So it'll be a while before we see everything kind of in the clear of that whole mess.
Oh yeah, like our friends who work in production are still testing constantly. Like one of our best friends could not go to DragonCon this year, and it absolutely sucked. But he was like about to go on the biggest job he's ever had and couldn't risk getting sick. It's like, I understand. Sucks and I miss you, but I understand.
Miss you.
Miss you. Wednesday 1310, thank you for the next super chat. Did anyone notice that Luthen's ship's voice is named Fondor Ship Mod in the subtitles? I love the neat little Battlefront 2 reference. I did notice that, and
I did not.
Oh, I was about to say something very minor from episode 4, but
let's not.
I think they literally just say that the ship is from Fondor. That's it. So, but yes, still cool. Fondor shipyards, hell yeah. But I do really like the way his ship is. I like how fancy it is, and it's a different kind of ship. I like that he whistles at it.
We haven't seen much of it. He does whistle at it to like open up, like right there at the end when they go in at the end of episode 3, and we both went like, did he just whistle at his ship?
I guess that's kind of like an Alexa thing, where you can just give it a certain signal to unlock and everything, but it has to recognize his whistle. It feels like that wouldn't be that hard to imitate. Like if someone can just whistle well, then the ship's going to unlock completely. Get it
it's
together.
Probably got like a voice recognizer or something. I don't know. It's Star Wars. We don't have to get this nitpicky.
How dare you? Okay, leftist, I'm going to do it. Leftist Hominid has the next one. Wants me to do this in Yoda syntax. I'm going to try. It's not even about the episode, but here we go. A mightier pirate who is Guybrush Threepwood or Hondo Ohnaka? So, this is about Return to Monkey Island, I think, is the name of the new game that's coming out. Monkey Island is like an old LucasArts point-and-click adventure, and they've made a new game.
I saw Matt Martin tweeting about that.
Oh yeah, Matt Martin loves Monkey Island.
So are we asking who's a better pirate, Guybrush Threepwood or Hondo Ohnaka?
Yeah, so Guybrush is the main character of the Monkey Island series.
Okay. I don't know who that is, so I don't think I'm qualified for this question.
I'm going to go with Hondo Ohnaka. I think he is more ruthless. I think he has what it takes to make it as a pirate. In his Rebels age and on, like towards Galaxy's Edge, I think he has softened a bit, so good for him. But I think Hondo Ohnaka probably is the better pirate. Although I would say the way that you sword fight in that game is by trading insults, because you don't actually fight. You just like pick and choose your dialogue options. And I think I'd like to see them both do that. I think Hondo would excel at that kind of sword fighting.
Yeah. Insults?
Insults and retorts.
I need to check out this game.
It's fun. Did you ever play any of those old like point and click adventures?
Give me some other examples, because I might have.
Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Actually the Telltale games are kind of along those same vein. They're updated, but they're similar.
Well, I love those games. So.
Yeah. It's basically like
Myst. I played Myst. Or I played Riven actually more than Myst.
It's a lot of like kind of puzzle solving. You pick up this thing and then you go and you click use over here. They're fun. Me and Chris used to play them all the time.
I was too cool.
Fine. Molly was out going on dates.
I was hanging out, being cool.
I was playing The Dig and Full Throttle and Day of the Tentacle.
Those sound awful.
Day of the Tentacle is amazing. You hush. We're moving on so we don't fight. Bill Rudd, thank you for the next super chat. On the subject of Star Wars swearing, what did you think of all the folks on Ferrix taking Cobb's name in vain? Also, is this deity new to canon?
Cobb?
Cobb Vanth?
Cobb Vanth? I don't know what they're talking about.
Cobb shit? Cobb what? Did they say the word Vanth a lot? I'm confused. Maybe someone in the chat can help us.
Is there another planet named Vanth or something?
I don't think so. Maybe they're talking about Dank Ferric? Like Ferric's Ferric?
We can come back to this one.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out in chat and see if anyone can help us out. Cassia Pidgip, thank you for the next super chat. First, Cassian endangers B2 over Comlink, and then does it again to K2 on Scarif. You're right. If only he learned from his earlier mistake. Well, kind of. Cassian saved B2 by giving away his location. But he does have a bad habit of chiming in when he should not, when his droids are in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Chob. Apparently someone said Chob by Chob for Chob's sake. What in Chob's name?
I've never heard that in Star Wars. That's
Chob
weird.
Vanth. Chob Vanth is Cobb's less successful brother.
Huh.
Let's pray to Chob to enlighten the Daemons.
Pray to whoever you want. I have seen a lot of people comparing B2 and K2, saying that, like, what if B2's memories get uploaded into K2 eventually, and like he becomes K2 at some point. I don't know if that's true. We'll talk about it in the Q&A this weekend, but seen a lot of comparisons.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more just giving Cassian that familiarity with droids, a fondness for droids. I think that's more what it's about. Ronan Unchained, thank you for the next super chat. Hi, Alex and Molly. What's up, cabrones? I feel like that was for Heroes Reforged.
Yeah.
I'm sorry they left. I spotted the ghost ship, or a model of it. Also, at least 2 creatures that were created for The Force Awakens. This is the way. Yeah, I think the Ghost, or the VCX 100, I think that was in the shipyard that Cassian was like swapping that ID chip out of.
We saw a character that looked like Tito, same like eyes and face configuration, and we saw the Steel Peckers,
and Rudown, the big Force Awakens droid with the yellow arms.
Yeah.
I think there was a Lugga Beast in the scene where our first B2 emo scene, where he's like driving down the road and the Corellian Hounds come out and pee on him. Which is very funny because he looks like a fire hydrant. I think there's a sleeping Lugga Beast in the street.
Oh,
I don't know if it's sleeping or I'm not exactly sure what a Lugga Beast is, because it seems like it's half droid, half organic. But I think there was one asleep in the street.
Please answer the question about what is the best garlic cheese toast in the world, Alex.
I mean, I am addicted. I miss it. I was telling Molly, okay, so Force
Explain.
Center, yeah, Force Center took us to Smokehouse while we were out for the Andor premiere. It was delicious, and I saw Wyatt Russell there. It was very exciting.
You think you saw Wyatt Russell?
I definitely saw Wyatt Russell. Joseph confirmed.
I didn't see him.
Confirmed. I pointed him out to you, just because you didn't care. What's his?
I didn't see him.
Agent America was there. But yeah, they have the best garlic bread in the world, garlic cheese toast. I was telling Molly, it's kind of like Cheez-Its, where, I don't know, you eat it and it's not the most amazing thing you've ever had, but you crave it. And you just have to keep putting it in your mouth until it's gone, which maybe that does mean it's amazing.
It was like a very different kind of garlic cheese toast that I've ever had. Because yeah, the seasoning or the flavoring was like almost like whatever is at the bottom of a Doritos bag that they just like poured it on to bread. But it was really good. So now that we've gotten that cleared up.
my bad. It's U.S. agent, not Agent America.
Did you say? Oh,
I said
Grandpa.
Agent America. Huh? Mima? What?
Oh, Grandpa. We're showing our age.
Sorry. Yeah, look, I'm not Marvel explained. That's what we get explained to us.
It's like your parents saying Power of Ring.
The Power Ring.
The Power Ring show.
Samir has the next super chat. Thank you, Samir. Sup, homies. Also for Heroes Reforged. Dang it. Andor lessons. 1, snitches get blasted. 2, don't piss on a droid.
Those are very good good lessons to learn from Andor.
That immediately made me think Hilo would probably try to pee on a droid.
Oh,
but I'm also just like, if he saw one rolling around, I think he'd freak out. I don't know if he'd I think he would think it was a mobile fire hydrant, and I don't think he would like that.
Those Corellian Hounds looked so good. They looked like dogs who had big prosthetics on them.
Which they are.
That's what they are, but they just looked so good. I love real prosthetic enhancements like that.
I remember seeing that for Solo, how they made the Corellian Hounds. Oh, it's so cute. I'm gonna get this image up into the chat in a second. But it's so cool the way that they do this, and I can't imagine trying to train Hilo to do something like this.
Well, Hilo isn't the kind of trained dog that they have work on.
But look at that.
Movies. Oh.
Just put a little helmet on him, and then they had it pee on a fire hydrant.
They're like completely top to bottom covered in like prosthetics and stuff.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And they're just fine. But it did seem like they, when you put little booties on a dog or a cat and they walk like they're trying to get them off. I noticed some of that in their walking, but it was still just kind of charming.
Yeah, because their feet, the feet on the prosthetic looks like pig feet, so it's just kind of goes straight down on the ground, which is weird. Anyways.
Let's jump over to Garth McMurray, who has the next 2 super chats. Thank you, Garth. I grew up in Andover, Massachusetts, and there's a bell tower with 49 bells. That's kind of cool. The bells ring on the hour, chime once on the half hour, and play a medley at 5 p.m. every day. So I love the bell tower in town. That's kind of weird that it's called Andover. Do you think did they?
Well, I mean, I feel like a lot of other towns have bell towers.
Sure, but I don't know. It's kind of cool that Andover. It's close to Andor.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Put on that tinfoil hat. That's something we talked about doing at one point, is getting an overlay of tinfoil hats for us. I need to do that.
Oh, for our live streams?
And then we can just make sure our heads fit in them. I'll do that later. But Garth has the next super chat as well. Thank you, Garth. Just 3 episodes in, and Andor is awesome. I love seeing a gritty, dark take on the rise of the rebellion with no Skywalker family members or Jedi. So do I.
This is the story about the rest of the world who the decisions of the Skywalker family greatly change.
Yeah. And it's like we're not there yet, but it just I love the feeling.
When we get done watching the show and we see just how much work was put into starting the rebellion, and then we see Luke just come in and take all the credit for blowing up the Death Star, it's like we'll finally realize how much work went into this process, and everyone had to do their part. And then Luke came in and was like, I'm a pilot. I can blow stuff up.
To Luke's credit, that is a full 12 issues of the Star Wars comic is him learning about Jyn Erso and the rest of Rogue One and realizing how many people it took and how many sacrifices it took to get him to the point where he could make that shot. And then he names Rogue Squadron after them. So to Luke's credit, he gets it. Someone shared that information with him, and it's a good arc. But yeah, like I really like Andor's Cassian's story so far, and the fact that we keep seeing him get yanked around, like he just lets things happen to him, and that we're going to build to a character who decides to give his life for the rebellion instead of someone like Luthen Rail just being like, come with me, or Marva being like, here we go, taking you away from your family. I really dig the setup for this story, if that's where they're going to head. Just because I saw this, I wanted to discuss it because I liked it and thought it was interesting. But how did you like the Arabesh the translated Arabesh on the screen? Threw me off, but I didn't mind it. Agreed. It was a little weird. It kind of made me go,
appreciated it.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, like, what else are you going to do? That there's no other unless he read the thing out loud, which is kind of weird. There's no other option. It's like you have to throw the text up and have it translated. So yeah, it did.
I liked it.
It gave me pause, but I'm fine with it. So next up, we got Cameron French. Hope the show gets a little more hopeful. I don't want Star Wars to turn into Handmaid's Tale.
I can understand that sentiment because, I mean, it does definitely get more hopeful. I think there are a lot of aspects of hope kind of hidden in between the lines of what we've seen so far.
Yes.
But
and I think it's going to start dark and gritty and all that. I hope Ken is still here. Dark and gritty, Ken. Can't mute me. But I think it's going to start that way and build to a more hopeful galaxy / world. It follows Cassian's arc of someone who thinks like, there's no point. I'm just out here to survive and do what I can do for me. And then, and then build up to him making the choice to go to Scarif. And it's his choice because he wants to give hope to the entire galaxy. Like, I absolutely think that it's starting a little more grim and will build to a happier place. Because something that stood out to me when I talked to Cavan Scott, because he's a big horror fan. And I asked him, like, would you ever want to write a Star Wars horror story? And he said it would be difficult because to him, horror movies, it's like a big theme is the absence of hope. And you cannot do that in Star Wars because so much of Star Wars is about hope. And you can tell spooky stories in Star Wars, but a straight up horror is more difficult. And yeah, I don't think they're ever going to tell just a completely dystopian, like nothing can ever get better kind of story in Star Wars.
Unless they have that story saved for the eventual story of the Bothans.
They all die.
They're all dead.
That's the story.
There's a reason we haven't seen them yet, and it might be because there's no hope for them.
There's only 4 of them left, and then they all die to find out that the Emperor was going to be on the second Death Star. And when Mon Mothma's like, many Bothans died, all 4 of them, they're all gone.
They're all gone.
Yeah, that's pretty grim, Molly.
That raises the stakes. I'm all for grim, dark storytelling, but I agree. You need a little sliver of hope for Star Wars.
What's it? I think it was Force Center that has talked about, like, even Revenge of the Sith, which is the most dark ending a Star Wars movie has still ends on hope. It still ends with Luke and the Lars family and the sun sets. Like, Star Wars needs hope in it, or it's not Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go over to Bones McCoy for the next super chat. Thank you, Bones. Another great show name from Molly Mothma. Oh, okay. Let's just solve this right now. Let's just. Molly says,
believe you.
I don't believe you.
Alex is insisting that he came up with the name for this show.
I came up with the name of this one. I was so proud.
That's possible.
I was so proud of myself that you liked a name. And I was like, oh, is this going to be the name? I actually came up with one for once. And now she's.
Because I'm coming up with like 10 names for your every one name on our walks. So I have to imagine that I came up with this. But if not, that's fine.
I said this one and you were like, I like that. And then you said, I'm going to steal it. It's mine now.
We'll never
know.
Hilo is the only one that knows the truth.
He knows. He knows it was me.
But yes, thank you. The name has gotten a lot of good replies.
You know how I know it wasn't you is because you.
Anyways, the next super chat comes from Dan V900. Thank you so much. Being a non-Star Wars fan with Tony Gilroy isn't bad. The Wrath of Khan was directed by Nicholas Meyer, who never saw an episode of Star Trek when given the job. Good storytelling is what matters ultimately. Couldn't agree more.
Totally agree.
I had an idea that the fact that Tony Gilroy wasn't as much of a big Star Wars nerd as, say, Rian Johnson, like, he would just bring something very different to the table, and that's exactly what he did.
That some people act like Star Wars should only be written by mega fans, but it's like, I want people to come in and offer a different perspective. And just the fact that Tony Gilroy doesn't have a super attachment to this franchise, but was like, I think I can use the building blocks of Star Wars to tell a cool story, to me is incredibly compelling. And I don't know, this only ever really comes up when it's a woman, basically. I mean, a lot of times if a female writer says something, they're like, well, why didn't they get a mega fan to write this thing? And then Tony Gilroy comes in and reshoots Rogue One, and everyone's like, best thing ever. It's happened multiple times.
Tony Gilroy?
He hasn't said that.
No, you said he came in and reshot Rogue One.
He helped rewrite Rogue One.
Oh, okay.
And now he's doing Andor. And like, he gets a pass for not being a fan.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far down that road.
Oh, we could go down that road for quite a while.
We can. I mean, like, people have thrown out, like, Leslie Headland, who played the 1990s RPGs. Like, she is that level of fan. She grew up playing RPGs, and people are like, why didn't they get a real fan to write Star Wars? And it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, so many people just assume if you're talking about a real Star Wars fan or a real Star Wars nerd, the image in most people's minds is a dude.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just not the case.
Yeah. But it's just like Tony Gilroy can do whatever he wants and he gets a pass. And he's crushing it. Like, I'm happy that they're having a variety of people come in. And it's like, yeah, sometimes you want a mega fan coming in and doing The Mandalorian. Jon Favreau, like, grew up obsessed with Star Wars, and it feels like a guy playing with his action figures.
Yeah, Favreau's just writing a cowboy story that happens to be in Star Wars.
Yeah. And like, it does feel like someone playing with his action figures, and I love it for that. I think that's good. But to have someone else come in who's like, I don't know anything deep cut about Star Wars, and I don't have to, like, this is just the vision I have. Like, yes, do that too.
Although, I wonder if that makes this better, because we've talked about the fact that Fest was a part of this story, and like they made that work where, oh, on paper he's from Fest, but actually he's from Canary, and here's like why there's this disconnect. Maybe the fact that Tony Gilroy doesn't know as much about Star Wars lore, he listens to those little details and he's like, oh, I can use that. Whereas other people are like, it's fine, no one cares.
Yeah, I mean, I think that something I'll remember from the premiere is just how much Diego Luna on stage praised Tony Gilroy's collaborative nature. And from watching the first 4 episodes, what I think he means is that he has a vision for his story, and he probably wrote a bunch of stuff. I bet some lines said like, parentheses, insert Star Wars planet here, and then they filled in the blanks. But I absolutely think that Tony Gilroy wrote a story about Canary, and this is where Cassian is from, and it's this backwater planet that's very primitive. And so he wrote all that, and then someone at the story group was like, so in the visual dictionary, we kind of said Cassian was Fest. Is there any way that they probably offered the whole, like, can we say that was his cover story or something? And Tony Gilroy was like, cool, I got it. And he didn't have to do that. But for someone who read the visual dictionary and probably cares too much about it, I felt so rewarded that at least they thought of it. That at least they were like, hey, if you read that, like, we see you, we care. That's it. I like it.
Yeah.
But moving on to Ice. Thank you for a very generous super chat, Ice. Andor was great, off to a really solid start. Some stuff I wasn't crazy about, but most of it I loved. Everything on Ferrix was incredible, and I loved the new characters, especially Bix, Marva, B2, and Cassian's pal Brasso. That's a good list. I like all those people.
I was going to say earlier, I started talking about Bix and then I lost my train of thought, but I like to see women in Star Wars who are the ones kind of doing a lot of the shady deals behind the scenes. She wasn't just some guy's girlfriend that was put in there so that Star Wars could have a sex scene. She's like working on stuff, and she's in charge of like the behind the scenes deals that are going on around town. Like people trust her with information. She knows what's going on. Like, it's nice to see a female character in that kind of position, and to like have the jealous boyfriend be the one that just puts everything in motion with his, drunken phone call.
I feel like I have been pretty harsh on Tim because of everything that he set into motion. But I said it in my review, and I still stand behind it. I like that the show didn't treat him as evil. They treated him as a dude that made a mistake, a jealous guy that got drunk, made a phone call that he immediately knew he shouldn't have. Like, he just went back and he started to eat his blue cereal and drink until Bix came over. And like, he couldn't sleep. He felt bad about what he did. He still like cared about Bix. He rushed all the corpos to try to help her. Like he had a lot of good qualities, and he made a dumb mistake. And I appreciate that they weren't just like, oh yeah, and Bix's boyfriend is evil.
Yeah.
It felt like, very real.
He ended up like being in the wrong place at the wrong time when those corpos were there, and like he was killed in the street, assuming he looked unarmed. He was really just concerned for Bix. Yeah. So yeah, that was like a whole other like very emotional scene, hitting very close to home for most people. It was just hard to watch, even in Star Wars. And like Bix was obviously just like devastated by it.
Yeah, it all just felt really, we've said it a lot, but grounded. And it felt like small town problems escalating and spiraling out of control. because you have your corporate overlords and then your imperial overlords over that.
Mm-hmm.
I dig the small scale that is going to balloon out. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Maddie Gunner, what's up? And thank you for the next super chat.
Hi, Maddie.
Protect B2 emo at all costs.
I'll bring up my drawing again in case anyone
we all
missed
agree.
it. B2's the best.
I was into B2 emo when we saw him. I was like, oh, neat looking droid. And the second he talked, I was like, love him. Love him.
Cassian. He's
for data lag.
They continue to make us love these little droids or big droids, whatever kind of droid it is. And like part of me is like, this is probably just really smart people, very good at their marketing jobs that want to sell toys. And that's fine because I will buy the toys.
I want it. Someone sent me the cardboard cutout and I was like, don't show me that. I don't need to see that. I don't need another cardboard cutout. Where am I going to put it?
Yeah.
Kyle Shaw, if only. Molly said the same thing.
I thought the same thing too when they released, this was like a month or two ago when they released a clip and I hadn't watched the subtitles yet. I'm like, are they saying Biggs?
The Dark Lord Revan, thank you for the next super chat. Love Andor, the kind of show I've wanted, the view of the common people, no space magic for once.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of the things I love about the X-Wing books is that for the first three, there are no force sensitives in it. We find out Corran Horn is force sensitive, but he doesn't really act on that for a while. So it's just about pilots. It's not about the Jedi coming in to save the day. It's just X-Wing pilots, and I love that. So I am really enjoying seeing that side of Star Wars play out in live action as well.
Yeah. And like I've said this before, but when we were watching these first 3 episodes for the first time, there were a few times where I just forgot I was watching Star Wars. And not in a bad way. I was just being drawn in so much to this show that's like a really interesting drama thriller situation. But then there would be little moments where it would pull me back in and be like, oh yeah, this is Star Wars. So I am really enjoying the no space magic, no lightsabers viewpoint of this show.
Especially after the first 10 minutes of Andor, then you have the rest of that episode and half of episode 2. It took me, I think, until the Corpos are headed to Ferrix in hyperspace and we cut to their ship and I was like, oh yeah, ships and stuff. We were on Ferrix for so long.
The ships, the hyperspace, every once in a while we would get a shot of someone's screen with all the Arabish writing on it. That stuff really brought it back down to Star Wars.
And I agree. I don't see that as a bad thing. I remember reading the Thrawn Ascendancy's books, the first one especially. Again, something would happen and I'd be like, oh yeah, Star Wars. We were in the Chiss Ascendancy and I kind of forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew 77711, thank you for the next super chat. She blinded me with science. Were we talking about weird science earlier? I don't remember.
Were we? That's the Weird Science song, right?
Uh-huh. Or were we just talking about science in general? I don't remember.
I don't know. Weird Science is one of my all-time favorite movies, but it does not age well.
Like a lot of 80s movies. Garth McMurray, thank you for the next and looks like final super chat. The blue cereal reminded me of the late 70s when I'd eat bowls of Boo-Berry and pour the sugary blue milk into a glass and drink it, pretending to be Luke. Oh,
that's
nice.
Cute.
We were just talking about the fact that if you want to make a food Star Wars, you just make it blue. You got your blue milk?
We had blue noodles, blue takeout noodles in this show.
We got blue milk, blue macarons, blue cereal, and blue noodles. And I do want blue noodles, which has got to be the easiest thing to make. Just cook up some ramen and some blue food dye.
Yeah.
And I love the little takeout box. Technology has not changed Even like the shape, it was like triangular or something instead of square. Otherwise,
Yeah, it
it's
was
a
very
takeout
obviously a takeout box, but they made it Star Wars.
box.
Oh boy.
And yeah, I think this will actually be good though. I was talking to him today and he actually likes it. The Templin Institute. Mark, thank you for the next super chat. And Spectre Karn is the first three-dimensional Imperial. He's not Imperial. He can't connect with people, so he invests his efforts into institutions. I would argue he's acted in good faith so far, trying to find a murderer.
You know what? I bet he's also like really obsessive about the quality of flag design.
I bet you're right. I bet you're.
Just a hunch.
I bet he has a sigil, a coat of arms, a coat of arms. I bet he has one of those. But I get what you're saying. I do think he probably will become an Imperial. But I agree with you. Like, I do think that he, in his own twisted way, like he is seeking a murderer. And yeah, that's a good thing to do. But he's clearly like his good qualities have been corrupted. He is very loyal, and that's good, but you shouldn't be loyal to a corporation. You should be loyal to people. Like he doesn't give a shit that 2 people died. He's like, they were company men. It's like, how many murders happen on your planet, and how hard are you chasing down the ones that aren't company men?
Yeah, how many people are going to die in your pursuit of Cassian?
Right. I love you, Mark. And I didn't insult you.
No, that was me, I think.
Oh, okay. About the flag. But you're
Mark
right.
Mark loves his flag and his flag designs, I respect that.
The Cyril Karn coat of arms. I'm sure it exists.
Now he can create it. Mark can create that.
And then let's see. Mark said, if he turns into a cartoon or defects to the rebellion, I'm out. I can see a path for goodness for Cyril.
I don't want him to be redeemed. I'm always campaigning for bad people in Star Wars to stay bad and like go down with their sinking ship.
Well, the fact that we're getting like ISB characters, I don't know. I see the good qualities of Cyril. And even he, like, there are some times when Mosk was like giving his big speech where it's like, you're just going to serve a warrant. And even Cyril kind of gives him the side eye, like, what are you doing? And when they're riding in the lander down, he's giving Mosk these weird looks. Like, I think even Cyril thinks Mosk is over the top. So I think he has good qualities that just need to be uncorrupted and redirected. So I will not be surprised if he finds his way to redemption.
Boo. Although we're going to find out a lot more about his character.
Yeah.
So when I find more out about him, I might change my tune, but probably not.
I mean, I'm with you. Like there are a lot of redemptions in Star Wars, but that's also what Star Wars is about, like being better. So
speaking of
and Dwight becomes a better person over the course of The Office. So
he does, but he also never changes really.
I think he just balances out and learns to love his coworkers a little bit more.
Yeah. You talk about me stealing the thunder for the show name. You just mentioned him being Dwight on the review without giving me credit.
Well, then we're even. We're co-writers. We're co-writers on everything.
It's true.
I'll share credit with no ifs and or buts with you. Okay.
Then I'll share.
Everything we have is 50% the other person's anyway. So You did not seem to enjoy that. You do not want to share Dwight Schrute with a gun with me.
You added the gun part. I just gave you everything else.
Ice, thank you for the next super chat. Very generous super chat. Thank you. I feel really bad for Bix. She was really betrayed by that guy. Were we meant to feel bad when he got killed? Because I didn't. He acted like he didn't know. He made a decision that was going to hurt her, you know? No, I definitely think when he made that decision, he was like, I'm going to hurt both of them, because he was drunk and stupid and thought they were doing something. And he didn't wait around. He was spying on her, first of all, and he didn't wait around to see her remove Cassian's hand from her own. She like shuts Cassian down, but Tim didn't see it. He ran off immediately.
But the jealous man has a very like one-track mind.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily like when he got shot. I was basically like, yeah, that tracks. But all I'm saying is I appreciate that they didn't treat him as evil. They didn't go all in on like just making him terrible and completely unlikable. He was just a jealous dude that made it. I mean, to talk about Star Wars, he let the dark side affect him. Jealousy is the shadow of greed. He wanted Bix all for himself, and he let that control him. And he paid the price for it.
Sorry, I just saw this and I was like, oh yeah, that's true. The title of our video just says episode 1.
Oh, well, oops, that's my bad.
But I did feel really, I felt a lot of feelings in that last episode, but when he gets killed by those corpos in the streets, I didn't know how I had so many feelings. I did feel bad, even though he kind of brought a lot of this stuff on. That doesn't mean he deserves to be shot in cold blood like that. That was rough to watch.
Agreed. But that's something I dig about the show, is just little small town conflicts are going to like explode into something so much more. And our last super chat here is coming from our friends at Nerdy Nightly. Thank you so much, Nerdy. Does the spelling of Tim's name make him a clone?
The extra M.
The double M. You know, I'm making up this rule right now, but I think that you have to double up a vowel to make him a clone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Tim is Tim with 2 M's is just the Star Wars version of the name Tim.
It's just short for Timmy, which is spelled with an apostrophe and an I in Star Wars. But I think Tiim would be his clone name.
Tiimm. That's evil Tim.
That's the clone of Tim.
He's gonna come in the last episode, the finale of season 1, and we're all gonna be like,
I've won.
What?
He accepts the Valor rule. Thank you. Well, that went like almost exactly 2 hours. I like that too. We are going to wrap it up for tonight. Thank you all so much for hanging out and chatting with us and Heroes Reforged. Again, all the links to Heroes Reforged and Adam and Augustine and Hector, even though he abandoned us to go on vacation in Italy.
He's in Italy, which is the only excuse that we would have accepted. Because we love Italy.
He should still be here. It's only like 4 a.m. over there or something. Anyway, thank you all so much for hanging out with us. And we will be back next week for another episode of No Ifs and or Buts that Molly and I named together as a team. And next week, Triad of the Force will be our guests for episode 4. And yeah, I think
I'm so excited to talk episode 4. It's got like a completely different feel to it, and there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, it opens up more. It's good stuff. So thank you. We gotta be careful. We gotta shut up. Nerdy's telling us to shut up. So thank you all again. We will see you next week, and may the force be with you.